D&D 5.5.
What did just off the cuff in 30 seconds or less, what's your immediate thought when you hear there's a 5.5?
Well, I want to give a little background first and talk about something that happened recently. They have come out with the Monsters of the Multiverse book and taken Volo's and Mordenkainen's off the table, which I'm not mad at them for stopping selling it and rewriting it to be a little friendlier. What I don't really like is them taking it off of D&D Beyond for people who have already bought it.
Okay, yeah, that's
some bullshit.
I don't agree with that. I understand the principle of it. You want people to buy the new book.
Yeah, but I already paid the $45 or whatever. Like, let me keep mine. Or give me, like, a 50% discount on the new book. Like, take care of me somehow.
Yeah, if you bought both, maybe give you the new book, because you've got a bunch of money off me already.
Let me explain capitalism to you.
Yeah.
I know.
All right, so your 30-second promo of what you're expecting or what your thoughts are on 5.5.
I got nothing to say about it.
So
This is going to be a short conversation.
Yeah, it is going to be a short conversation.
It's going to be a conversation with you two.
So I think that we're probably going to see some improvements of things that we didn't really know that we needed improving with, and then we're going to see them screw up a lot of things that we thought were fine.
My first impression is, oh no. We held on to 3.5
So
like
long.
it was the door that would only hold Rose at
Right.
the Titanic, right? We were gonna, and we finally, just a couple years ago, said, all right, we're going 5th edition. And so when I see 5.5 coming, I'm like, yeah, we're going to be in this death loop where we hold on to 5.0 for so long because, well, the investment we've made in it, we've just learned it and everything. So when we finally say, all right, we better move to 5.5, then it'll just be 6 months away from episode or from version 6. That's my first thought. Was like, no, not yet. Wait a little longer so I get more life out of my 5th edition stuff. I would love it if a game could be developed through improvements and new additions and then hit this stasis point.
It's just like, this is good.
The game.
I think 5.0 did that for a while,
Yeah, they
but
did.
let me explain capitalism to you.
Right. But so they were making a killing with source books and adventure books and campaigns, and there's plenty of other ways to keep
merchandising,
monetizing that thing. So what could drive 5.5, right? Well, one, there's some rules that could be cleaned up. There's some socio-political issues about how things are treated in a particular region. Lord knows we go way back. It's like, oh, this is kind of cringe when you look at it now. So I get that. You want to make some changes. So I am completely get it. And I'm not like stick my feet in the ground, drag my heels. No, never. 5.5. There's reasons for it, right? Capitalism and socio-political reasons. So I'm okay with it. I'm just going to be like, because, once we start playing, then I'm that idiot that goes, I must have every book.
I have to have all of the books.
I definitely agree with the socio-political stuff changing.
Right.
I think it's been a massive mistake to keep calling D&D races instead of backing it up the way that like Battlelords has, where it's species. And the different species are different because the word races has connotations nowadays. And I understand, like, the grognards being like, oh, well, just because our orcs are evil doesn't mean we're bad people, but it kind of, when you're explained what is wrong with that,
if you know better, you can do better.
Yeah.
But if you close your mind to anybody ever being able to convince you of anything, then you're never going to.
Right.
They will never know better.
I think the species angle on that.
Definitely.
If orcs were a different species instead of a different
it's
race.
It's more accurate, too, just
it
biologically.
Is. Because there are species that can make young with other species, like mules and that sort of thing. They're usually sterile, but
Yeah.
whatever. Races, races to me have come in this world to mean something different than we have way different physical attributes. We have way different capabilities. Like,
We have better
Yeah.
ways of categorizing the differences than to just call them races.
But some of the underlying themes and the undercurrents, whether you call them races or species, would still be as repugnant, right?
yeah,
This is a species and they're always evil. Okay, well, you just dressed it up in a different name. So I get it. And I really like how many things they've opened up to player
Pauses.
choices.
Yeah.
I
Because
remember
it forces that issue and it proves the point. Once people could play orcs, you could no longer say orcs are always evil.
Right.
Because there's going to be somebody playing it as the kind, gentle orc, right?
or just a crazy person or any number of random things you might want to play as. I always wanted to play as a Drowan when we were playing 3.5. Like 3.5 is pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
These are player races, these are not. And 5.0 is a little better about that. And I hope 5.5 is another step in that direction.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
One good thing that I am looking forward to 5.5, and this is purely selfish, is that whenever they come out with new editions of D&D, your Christmas and birthday presents are just wrapped up. I don't have to think about it. I just know.
Yeah.
And because you're really hard to
at
bar
the
from.
rate that they put stuff out,
There's always
you
something-
can count on
What?
there being a new release of something between June and December.
It's perfect. The timing is perfection. So it's,
I enjoy my TTRPG haul in June and
Right.
December.
you go home with
Like-
abandoned.
Some people are really hard to buy for. Like trying to figure out what to get my mom for Christmas every year is tough. But I've made it so easy for my children.
Like cool shirts, coffee mugs, and D&D or TTRPG starter sets. That's what you like.
Right.
You're done. Or something bound in leather.
And if you could wrap all of those like
Perfection.
a leather bound coffee mug that says D&D on it or
Right.
I'm in heaven.
You're just set.
So here's something I heard the other day in one of my. I'm in an online game that is going on 2 years now. We played through Curse of Strahd, and we played through
Ascent into...
the Icewind Dale,
Oh.
Rime of the Frostmaid,
Right.
and now we're playing Descent into Avernus
Mhm.
or Avernus, depending on which person is talking in our group.
I've only ever seen it written.
So the guy who is DMing the current Descent into Avernus for us, he posted, hey, based on the new books that are coming out, so I'm assuming he's talking about Monsters of the Multiverse and maybe Spelljammer. It looks like D&D 5.5 is going to go away from, are you ready for this? Short rest.
I saw something about that.
That most of the stuff in those books, instead of saying you get to do this, once per short rest, it'll say you get to do this a number of times equal to your proficiency modifier,
like
and it
that.
resets it, after a long rest. Like they're totally getting away from short rest. And so the question we had in our group was, well, what does that mean for like spending hit dice?
It makes healing that much worse.
Well, we talked about, would we try this out in our game? And it was just like, well, if you want to spend a hit dice, you can do it. You just can't do it in combat
Right.
because that is the second win feature for fighters. But outside of combat, you could just, I'm binding my own wounds. I'm tending to my own wounds.
Yeah, I'm going to sit down and take a breather. I like it.
I'm on the fence right now.
I like it because to me, like, think of how many times we have been deep down in a dungeon, and then after every single 3-minute battle, short rest, and like we said, you realize that we've been in here for 8 hours, and 7 of it has been short rests, like because there's certain things you have to get back, and I feel like if they can put in a mechanic where you can use your hit dice, and I feel like even if they don't, that's a house rule you can put in easily to be able to do that kind of stuff. Getting rid of the short rest and like reworking the things that are tied into your short rest would be great.
So the way this guy was talking is like for something that like you get this a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, whatever that is, that if he was to try this out, it would be take that number and multiply it by your proficiency bonus, and that's how many times you get it over the course of a day.
So like if your wisdom bonus is 3 and your proficiency is 3, then you would get it 9 times. I mean, to me, that works well.
Yeah. I'm sure there's some instances where it comes up with a number that is just ungodly high. You're like, I don't know. But all that can be worked with. But I wonder, I haven't seen any of the new books and where this conversation is coming from. As a DM, like at some point you have to like say, no, it's been too soon. You can't take another short rest. Right?
Yeah.
Or you can take one, but it's not going to give you anything back. You can just sit here and
I've played with DMs who have a house rule that's like you can have 3 short rests during a day, 24-hour period.
Yeah.
And then your long rest.
I feel like it's better to canonize that sort of house rule. Like put it in the book. You get 2 short rests and 1 long rest a day, than to take away short rest entirely, because it takes a lot of like the warlock flavor of having a tiny little spell allowance and getting it back on a short rest, and some of the paladin stuff I think is on short rest.
But living in the world of capitalism, doing something like that would require major rewrites to a lot of feats, class stuff, so it could justify moving into a 5.5, 6.0.
That's true.
That's the cynic in me, right? Saying, oh, well, if you find a big enough rewrite for the rules, it justifies a new edition. That would be substantial because it touches so much.
Pretty much every magic user would have there'd be a lot.
Pups for the Win says getting rid of short rest works better role-playing wise.
That's what I was saying.
Absolutely.
Agree. I mean, because there's been times where, I don't know, I feel like you've done it, I can't prove it, where we keep wanting to take short rests, and so in the middle of the short rest, you have something come out and attack us because you're like, you're doing that shit too fucking much. So I'm about to throw some shit at you. I'm going to teach you to just sit on your ass for 2 hours every other hour. Like, bullshit. I can't prove it, but I feel like you've done it.
I roll for them. Like, if the roll
and
comes
liberally
up
fudges rolls.
I don't usually fudge rolls in that direction. Sometimes I will.
I do.
But
So while we're on this topic, and I'm going to switch gears in there a little bit, what do you guys think of Spelljammer? Spelljammer.
I know nothing of it.
I don't know anything about that one
like
yet.
The other book, I forget what the name of it was, but it was the one that was they were advertising very heavily that it was all people of color and from their cultures. Like, it was sort of like Spelljammer, and people were like, oh, when are we going to get Spelljammer? They were like mad about not getting Spelljammer when you were getting like all these cool stories from other cultures written by people in that culture, so that it wasn't like Oriental Adventures where it was like a bunch of white dudes like fetishizing Asian.
A very, very complex and touchy book.
It's Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel. And the Radiant Citadel is going to be a Spelljammer-esque like hub where you can reach all these other places from.
I would absolutely love more other culture stuff, because I would love to play it, but I don't feel
you're not in a
strong
position to
enough
write
on
it.
those cultures to just homebrew something.
Yeah, it's not
nor
proper for
because
us
I'm one
to
of
make
those
it up.
guys you were talking about earlier. Like, it's still a hobby for me. I go to work, I come back, and what little time I have after work, a few hours a day, is spent just daydreaming about TTRPG stuff. Yeah, I know, I'm a loser.
That's what I do at work. I
so
get paid to do it.
Have a source book that really gave me that culture. I hear and seen a lot of stuff about it. I really want to pick it up soon. Coyote and Crow, source book about indigenous American.
That would be.
Yeah.
I love that kind of stuff. I mean, I really love that, especially when they go to the cultures and the people who are and get their opinion, not just a bunch of white dudes sitting around a table. I really love that kind of stuff because not only does it create like really good content, but it's doing a lot of respect towards those cultures.
Spelljammer is D&D in space.
Space.
Giant space hamsters. ships in space that look like the age of, cannonballs, space pirates on pirate-looking ships, but in space. And apparently it's like a way between all the different multiverses and everything. But basically it's let's pay pirates in space. It's got a certain draw for me, but then there's also this kind of, that's really out there, literally and figuratively.
Literally.